We are back on Inside Politics. Our guest today, State Representative Andy Holt. Representative Holt, we talked about gun permit fees earlier in the show. Where you're paying for 5 people to have that done. You want other lawmakers to do the same. Those fees are coming down over the next couple of years. You'd like to see those fees go away completely, is that right?
Ultimately, what I'd like to see is for us to have a constitutional carry provision here in the state of Tennessee that's been adopted by some other states. But in addition to that constitutional carry opportunity, I'd also like to see us to continue to have the concealed carry permit so that we have reciprocity with other states.
Now, in the last session, you also sponsored a bill that was passed and has become law. It allows faculty and full-time employees at colleges and universities in the state be able to carry their weapons on campus. Now they have to go through some procedures and clearance and things like that, but that does not include students, is that correct?
That is correct at this time, but ultimately what we see is the vast majority of these attacks that we've seen over the past several years have occurred in gun-free zones. We're trying to do all that we can incrementally to get to the point where we alleviate all gun-free zones on public property here in the state of Tennessee, except for highly secure areas.
Now there are some studies that indicate that particularly among younger people, those who would be students at colleges and universities, their brains are perhaps not as mature as they are when they're adults. And is it a good idea to be able to let them have weapons on campus?
Well, first of all, I'd like to see that study, and second of all, if we don't believe that by the time a student is 18, 20, 22 years old and on a college campus that they're mature enough to make cognizant decisions for themselves, then we may just need to pack up universities.
When you were at the University of Tennessee, you didn't attend any fraternity parties or sorority parties or things where there was alcohol and there were also, now there would perhaps be guns?
I literally did not. Now, I can't say that maybe that's not the average decision for college students, but for myself, that was the case. We do have to recognize that no one under the age of 21 will be permitted, and it's not currently the law right now, obviously. There may be some provisions that would need to take place to eliminate that particular concoction that you spoke of, where we talk about, obviously, it's always never a good idea to consume alcohol and to have a firearm. And in Tennessee, there is no provision that would allow an individual who is partaking in alcohol to carry or use a firearm.
But to argue the other side, if a student is mature enough to be able to handle a firearm, why aren't they mature enough to handle alcohol?
Well, I think you bring up yet another question is, could this not possibly be occurring right now? And it absolutely can. What we see is that anytime that we have a gun-free zone, we literally only take rights from law-abiding citizens. Criminals, by their inherent nature, don't care what our laws say.
Now, I understand you are a part-time instructor or teacher at Bethel University. Do you plan to invoke the state law and be able to bring your firearm onto campus as well when you're there performing your duties?
Bethel University is a private college, so this
doesn't apply to that.
That is correct. This is
Are
only.
you going to work with Bethel University to get them to allow that to be there, even though they're a private school at this point?
It's their decision. Obviously, they know my wishes regarding firearms and allowing individuals to protect themselves. But you know, I think that there is a clear difference in the state of Tennessee. The legislature has control over public institutions of higher education. We do not have control over private institutions, and so I think that's a decision for those private entities to make for themselves.
It looks like the next session of the legislature will have an opportunity to decide what to do about expanding health care in the state. Speaker Harwell's appointed a commission or a task force that came back just in the last few days and wants to expand the TennCare program, first to veterans and to those who have substance abuse problems or mental health problems, but perhaps ultimately, if it works well and isn't too expensive, expand it out to all the people who do not have health insurance coverage in the state. Is that something you can support, or is it too much like Obamacare?
At this point, I don't know the specifics of the decision that was made by the committee yesterday, and so I'd have to read over that. But what we do recognize is that every other state in the United States that's made the Medicaid expansion is now suffering and reeling from the increased cost associated with that program that have now taken on by the state. Any excess over the amount that would have been given by the federal government is a liability of the state. I think we need to be extremely careful, and at this point, just generally speaking, it would not have my support because we've seen the provisions that were laid out by the governor just this past session, and we saw an astronomically high accounting that would really be associated with the expansion because it would go far beyond what the expectation was for the population served.
Tennesseans of a certain age might remember an Andy Holt, who was the president of the University of Tennessee. Are your families in any way related to each other?
I'm not related to Dr. Holt, but he was a fine man, and I have a lot of folks that do confuse confuse me as being a relative of Mr. Holt and Dr. Holt, and still sometimes get some of his son's email actually by mistake.
Now, you also serve in the seat that was once held by House Speaker and later Governor Ned McWhorter. I think you would have been a fairly young person when Governor McWhorter was in office, or when he was do you have any memories of him? Did you ever meet him?
I actually did not grow up in the area where I represent now, where I serve, but my father-in-law and I actually farmed a portion of Ned Ray's ground, as we call him, and somehow or another, after I got elected, we didn't farm that ground anymore.
Representative Holt, thank you so much for coming on the show. We'll try to have you back here again in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Pat.
And thank you for joining us this week on Inside Politics. Hope you can make it back here again for a future show. If you can't get enough politics in the meantime, go to the News Channel 5 website. You'll find my Capitol View commentary there. There's a new commentary posted every Friday afternoon. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see you back here next time. Goodbye.